Downtown Los Angeles was buzzing as usual, horns blaring, street vendors calling out, people rushing with coffee in one hand and phones in the other. The air held a crisp chill. Fall had settled in, and with it, a gray sky that made everything feel a little heavier. Amid the crowd, near the corner of 6th and Broadway, stood a small girl no taller than a mailbox, her hoodie too thin for the weather. Her name was Ava. She was 9, and she was selling candy. 2 for 1. Help me out, please, she called. Softly, her voice almost swallowed by the noise of the city. People walked past her without a glance. Some looked uncomfortable, others annoyed. A few paused, only to shake their heads and walk away. Beside her, her 6-year-old brother, Jaden, sat on an overturned milk crate, rubbing his hands together for warmth. Their cardboard sign, written in uneven handwriting, read, "Raising money to help my mom. Thank you." Inside the cozy glow of a nearby cafe, Rihanna was finishing a meeting. Dressed down in a long coat and oversized shades, she looked like any other woman trying to go unnoticed, but her presence still turned heads. As she stepped outside, her bodyguard flanking her, she pulled her scarf tighter against the wind. When she saw Ava, it wasn't just the candy, it wasn't even the sign. It was the way the girl stood, determined, tired, but not broken. Rihanna slowed her pace. She watched as Ava offered a pack of Skittles to a man in a suit, who walked past without a word. Rihanna hesitated. This moment, right here, wasn't part of any PR campaign. No cameras, no interviews, just her, a street corner, and a little girl trying to make the world a little less hard for her family. She walked over. Ava looked up, startled, and took a step back. I'm sorry. I wasn't bothering anyone." "You're not bothering me," Rihanna said gently, pulling down her scarf. Ava blinked, recognition lighting up her eyes. "What's your name?" "Ava," she whispered. "Can I buy some candy, Ava?" Ava nodded quickly, hands shaking as she grabbed a few packs, but Rihanna didn't take the candy. She knelt beside her and said something that made Ava's eyes fill with tears, and someone across the street started recording. The video was only 42 seconds long. It started a little shaky, the camera catching a glimpse of traffic before focusing on the sidewalk. There, crouched beside a child in a red hoodie, was Rihanna. Yes, that Rihanna. Speaking softly, her hand resting on the little girl's arm like they'd known each other forever. The person filming hadn't expected anything major, just another LA moment. But the tenderness of the scene caught them off guard. The way Rihanna listened, the way Ava tried to keep her composure, nodding through tears. And then Rihanna stood, took out her phone, and called someone, her voice firm, eyes focused. The caption? "Rihanna just stopped everything for this little girl selling candy on the street. This is what real kindness looks like." Within an hour, the video had 50,000 views. By the end of the night, it passed 2 million. People flooded the comments. "That little girl, you can see the weight on her shoulders. Rihanna didn't do this for attention. This was real. Who is this kid? Someone help her." Back on that same street corner, though, Ava didn't know any of this. She and Jaden were back on the bus with their mom, Carla, heading to the small apartment they shared in South Central. The ride was silent, except for the quiet hum of traffic and the occasional cough from a man sitting behind them. Carla looked exhausted. She always did after cleaning 2 houses and still needing to pick up her kids. She hadn't asked Ava to sell candy, but she hadn't said no either. When there's rent to pay, lights to keep on, and a fridge that buzzes louder than it hums, sometimes you just don't have better options. "So, this lady," Carla asked. "She bought candy?" Ava hesitated. "She didn't just buy it. She said she wanted to help." Carla sighed. People say a lot of things. But somewhere in Los Angeles, Rihanna was still thinking about Ava, still replaying the look in her eyes, still waiting for her assistant to get back with answers. Who was this girl? Where did she live? What could be done? Quietly, and for real. Because this wasn't a photo op. This wasn't PR. This was personal now, and the world had just started watching. By morning, Ava's face was on every major news site. TMZ'd had her picture next to a bold headline: Rihanna's Sweet Street Encounter. Who is the candy girl? Twitter turned her into a symbol. TikTok duets flooded in, people sharing candy, telling their stories, even dressing up like Ava with hoodies and homemade cardboard signs. Most meant well, but none of them knew her. In a cramped one-bedroom apartment with faded carpet and flickering lights, Ava sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at her mom's phone. "That's you," Jaden whispered, peeking over her shoulder. Nodded. "That's me." Carla stood in the kitchen, still in her janitor uniform from the night shift. Her face was unreadable, the kind of expression that held years of disappointment wrapped in layers of survival. She didn't like cameras, didn't trust attention. "They'll forget tomorrow," she muttered. "The world moves on quick." But Ava couldn't forget. The way Rihanna looked at her, it wasn't pity. It was something stronger, something like belief. At the same time, inside a minimalist office high above downtown LA, Rihanna was re-watching the video in silence. Her assistant, Layla, stood beside her, scrolling through messages. "She's trending everywhere," Layla said. "News outlets are asking for statements." "I'm not doing interviews," Rihanna replied flatly. "Should we find her?" Layla asked. Quietly, Rihanna looked out the window. The city below looked endless, anonymous. It made finding one child feel impossible. But she shook her head. "No, not should. We will. I want to know who she is, what she needs. But we do this right. No fanfare, no cameras." Layla nodded, already texting someone. Back in South Central, Ava pulled her blanket tighter. Outside, sirens echoed faintly, a sound she barely noticed anymore. She hadn't eaten dinner, again. But the moment with Rihanna lingered in her chest like a warm ember. It made her believe that maybe, just maybe, life didn't have to stay this way. What Ava didn't know was that change had already begun. People were asking about her. Advocates, organizers, even social workers. Rihanna's name had opened a door, but now the question was, what happens when the internet forgets, but real life keeps going? It had been 4 days since the video. The buzz had started to fade. New headlines, new trends, new faces. But inside that one-bedroom apartment, life hadn't changed much. The lights still flickered when the microwave ran. Rent was still overdue. And Carla was still working back-to-back shifts with swollen feet and a stomach that hadn't known a full meal in days. Ava noticed her mom had stopped asking about the video. She noticed, too, that Jaden was coughing more. The heat in the building barely worked, and the worn-out space heater crackled every time Carla plugged it in. Still, Ava tried to keep things normal. She organized the candy in a shoebox, practiced her math on a folded worksheet, kept telling herself something was coming. Something big. Then came the knock. It was a soft, polite knock, unlike the landlord's, who always banged like a threat. Carla froze. It was nearly 8 p.m. No one visited them. Ever. She walked to the door slowly, placing her hand on the lock. "Who is it?" "Hi," came a calm voice. "My name is Erica. I'm with a nonprofit organization. We work with families in the community. I'm here about Ava." Ava looked up from the couch, heart racing. Carla hesitated, then cracked the door. On the other side stood a woman in her 30s, holding a clipboard and wearing a winter coat. She wasn't smiling like a reporter. She looked tired, but kind. "We saw the video," Erica said gently. "We've been trying to find you." Carla opened the door a little wider, still guarded. "What do you want?" "I want to help." she said. Not for the cameras, not for a story. Someone powerful, wanted to make sure you got real support. Quietly. Ava stepped into view. Erica's eyes softened. "You're Ava?" she asked. Ava nodded slowly. "You've inspired more people than you know." For the first time. In days, Carla sat down. Erica explained. Housing assistance, legal aid, food programs, school support. Nothing fancy, nothing flashy. Just help. Real help. Ava sat quietly, absorbing every word. She didn't know who this woman really worked for. But deep down, she knew Rihanna had something to do with this. Not because of the fame, but because of the way she looked at her that day. Like Ava mattered. Like her life mattered. And now, for the first time in a long time, something finally felt possible. It wasn't in front of cameras. It wasn't at a red carpet event, or on a stage, or with flashing lights. It was at a quiet community center in Baldwin Hills, where the walls were painted in soft colors and the smell of fresh paint still lingered. The place had been recently renovated, donated by someone anonymous, but everyone in the room had their guesses. Ava sat on a bench outside the multi-purpose room, swinging her legs slowly, wearing a clean hoodie and shoes that actually fit. Her hair was tied back neatly, thanks to a volunteer who had brought over some supplies the day before. Carla sat beside her, arms crossed, looking around like she didn't trust the calm. But something in her eyes was softer now, less defensive. Maybe it was the food boxes delivered to their door, or the heater someone fixed without asking for anything in return. "Are you nervous?" Carla asked, breaking the silence. Ava shrugged. "A little." The door opened quietly. It was Layla, Rihanna's assistant. She smiled warmly. "She's here." Carla started to stand, but Ava held her hand. "Can I go alone?" Carla hesitated, then nodded. Ava walked slowly into the room, her heart pounding. The door shut gently behind her, and there she was. Rihanna stood by a window, in jeans and a simple sweater, hair pulled back, no makeup. She turned, smiled, and it wasn't the superstar smile from magazine covers. It was soft, warm, real. "Hey, Ava," she said. Ava froze for a second, then walked forward. "Hi." There was a pause. Just a heartbeat of silence. And then Rihanna sat on the edge of a chair, looking at her at eye level. "I've thought about you every day since we met," she said. "You remind me of someone. I used to be." Ava tilted her head. "But you're Rihanna." "I wasn't always," she said with a half smile. "I grew up in a small place with not much. I know what it's like to feel invisible. But you're not invisible. You're powerful. You don't even know it yet." Ava swallowed hard. Her eyes burned. Rihanna leaned in. "I'm not here to fix everything. I can't. But I can stand beside you and make sure the world doesn't forget your name." And then, she did something Ava didn't expect. She hugged her. No cameras, no entourage. Just a woman holding a little girl like the world had just gotten a little lighter. The days that followed felt strange. Good, but strange. Ava was no longer selling candy on the street. She was going to school every morning, where the teachers suddenly knew her name before she walked in. Jaden had new sneakers, warm ones that actually gripped the ground when he ran. And their apartment? It wasn't perfect, but someone had fixed the heater, painted the walls, and left groceries in the kitchen. No cameras, no names attached. Carla started sleeping again. Not long, but enough to keep her eyes from drooping at work. She still cleaned houses, still rode the same bus routes, but something had shifted. Maybe it was knowing she could breathe, just a little. Maybe it was watching Ava smile more. But with change came noise. More reporters knocked, even after Carla asked them to stop. Some neighbors started acting weird, too friendly, or suddenly cold. One woman asked Carla how much money she got from Rihanna, like kindness had a price tag. Online, the story exploded again. Clips of Rihanna's quiet visit to the community center leaked. Someone had snapped a photo, blurry but clear enough. The internet caught fire once more. She met the candy girl in private? This is why she's different. Where's the GoFundMe? Let's help them. This kid needs to be in school, not selling candy on sidewalks. Ava scrolled through, the comments at night lying in bed. Some made her smile. Others made her stomach twist, but it was the letters that hit hardest. Dozens of them arrived at the community center, handwritten notes from other kids, some from across the country. A boy in Detroit who sold water at intersections, a girl in Houston who skipped lunch to give her mom bus fare. They weren't just fans, they were like her. She read every one. "This is bigger than me," she told Carla one night, quietly. Carla didn't answer right away. Then, "Maybe. But don't forget, you're still just a kid, Ava. Don't carry the whole world." But Ava had already started to feel the weight. And far across town, in a studio with soft lighting and bare walls, Rihanna sat alone at a piano, headphones resting on her shoulders. She was writing something, not a song for the charts, not a speech, something personal, for Ava, for all the Avas. Because now, this wasn't just about going viral, it was about what comes after. It arrived on a Wednesday, folded neatly in a plain white envelope, no return address. Carla found it taped to their apartment door when she came home from work. For a second, she thought it was another notice. Late rent, another warning, another reminder that life had teeth, but inside wasn't a bill. It was a handwritten letter. No logo, no legalese, just a soft cream paper and a quiet, familiar handwriting. "Dear Ava," it began. She sat on the couch, legs curled beneath her, as Carla read over her shoulder. "You may not remember every word we said when we met, but I do. I remember how brave you were just to stand there. I remember how tired your eyes looked and how strong they still were. I wanted to send you something. Not a gift, not money. A question. What do you want to build? Not just for you, but for others like you. You've seen hard things. But those hard things gave you something powerful, perspective. I can help you turn that into action, but only if it's what you want. Think about it. No pressure. I'll be here. R." Ava read it 3 times. The paper shook slightly in her hands. She had never been asked that question before, not by a teacher, not by her mom, not even in her own mind. What do you want to build? She didn't know. Or maybe she did, but was too scared to say it out loud. Carla sat beside her, silent for a moment. Then, "What do you want?" Ava stared at the wall. Her mind raced, images of kids on sidewalks, backpacks with broken zippers, cracked school lunch trays, shelters that felt like cages. "I want to build something that helps kids like me feel seen," she whispered. "Safe, like they're not just surviving." Carla blinked, caught off guard by the clarity in her daughter's voice. "And I want to learn how to do it right, not just with money, with real plans." The next day, Ava wrote a letter back. Her handwriting was messy. Her spelling wasn't perfect, but the message was clear. And somewhere in a quiet office, Rihanna read it with a soft smile and picked up the phone. "Let's make space for her," she said. Let her lead. The first step didn't feel like a big moment. There was no stage, no press. Just a folding chair in the back of a small conference room, Ava holding a pen that was too big for her hand, and a notebook that still had multiplication tables scribbled inside the front cover. Around her sat adults, nonprofit directors, teachers, youth counselors. Some looked at her with curiosity, others with doubt. Rihanna wasn't in the room, but her influence was. She had made the call. Not to say make Ava the face of something. No, she said, make space for her voice. And they did. The group was called Groundwork LA, a local org focused on youth empowerment. They met weekly, working on everything from food access to mentorship programs. This week's topic: how to reach kids who felt forgotten. Ava listened. For most of the meeting, head down, heart pounding. Her palms were sweaty, but then a man in his 40s, James, a school counselor, said something that made her lift her head. We keep trying to pull these kids in, but they don't trust us. They shut down. Ava raised her hand. Slowly. The room paused. James blinked. Yeah, Ava. They're not shutting down, she said quietly. They just don't see the point in opening up. Not when nothing changes after. The room fell silent. They've opened up before, she continued, gaining confidence. They've told people they're hungry, scared, tired. But when it doesn't lead to anything real, they stop talking. James leaned back. Another woman, Maya, a youth organizer, nodded. That's exactly it, she said. We listen, but we don't respond. Not in ways that matter to them. From that moment, Ava wasn't just a guest in the room. She was part of the room. After the meeting, Maya pulled her aside. You ever thought about running your own youth circle? Kid-led. Kid-run. You'd decide what gets talked about. Ava's eyes widened. I'm just a kid. Exactly, Maya said with a smile. That's what makes it powerful. That night, Ava couldn't sleep. Not because of anxiety, but because for the first time her brain was racing with ideas. A name for the group, a safe place to meet, snacks maybe, journals for every kid, a place where nobody had to prove they were struggling to be heard. She didn't have it all figured out, but she had taken the first step, and sometimes that's everything. They called it the Circle. No stage, no microphones. Just a quiet room at the community center, a dozen folding chairs in a wide ring, and a hand-painted sign taped to the wall. You matter, you're heard, you're not alone. Ava had painted it herself. The first meeting was awkward. 6 kids showed up, 3 from her school, 2 from a nearby shelter, 1 who barely spoke. They shuffled in with hoodies pulled low, eyes scanning the room like they were waiting for it to feel fake. Ava knew that look. She'd worn it herself. They didn't talk much that day. Mostly just listened. One boy picked at the peeling sticker on his water bottle. A girl asked if the snacks were free. Another just stared at the floor. Still, they stayed. The second week, more came. By the third week, the room felt different. There was laughter, quiet, but real. Someone brought music. Someone else shared a poem they'd written but never read, out loud before. The shy girl spoke for the first time. My mom's getting evicted. Nobody interrupted. Nobody tried to fix it. They just listened. Ava didn't lead like a teacher. She didn't lecture. She asked questions. What's been hard this week? What do you wish adults knew? If you could change one thing at school, what would it be? And slowly, a community formed. But not everyone approved. Carla was proud, deep down, but worried. You're still a kid, she'd say. You're carrying too much. A teacher pulled Ava aside at school. You're doing great work, but don't let this distract you from your grades. Even some kids at school whispered, she's just doing this for attention. She's friends with Rihanna now. That's why people listen. It stung. But Ava didn't quit. Because every time someone said, this helped me, or I thought I was the only one, she remembered exactly why she started. And one evening, as she was packing up chairs, Maya walked in with an envelope. What's this? Ava asked. Maya smiled. An invitation. You've been asked to speak at the City Youth Forum next month. Real platform. Real voices. Ava froze. Me? You. but only if you want to. That night, Ava sat at her window, staring out at the quiet street below. She didn't feel like a symbol, or a leader, or an activist. She felt like a girl who once sold candy on the sidewalk, trying to make the world a little softer for someone else. And maybe that was enough. The auditorium wasn't huge, but it felt that way. Rows of folding chairs. A modest stage with a single mic stand. Fluorescent lights overhead. No spotlights. No music. Just the quiet hum of people settling in. Teachers, students, organizers, a few local journalists. Ava stood backstage, knees locked, palms sweaty. Her notes were folded in her jacket pocket, but she wasn't sure she'd use them. This wasn't like the circle. This wasn't her people in a quiet room. This was everyone. Rihanna wasn't there, but she didn't need to be. Her presence had never been about the spotlight. Her support had been behind the scenes, consistent, steady, respectful. "You ready?" Maya asked, standing beside her. "No," Ava whispered. "Good. That means it matters." Her name was called, applause followed. Not thunderous, but kind. Encouraging. Ava stepped out. She took the mic with both hands, looked out at a sea of faces she didn't know, and took a breath. "My name is Ava," she began. Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. "You probably know me from that video, the one where I was selling candy. But that's not the story I want to tell." The room quieted. "I want to talk about what comes after. After the viral post, after the help, after people forget." She told them about the circle, about the kids who showed up, about the hunger, the silence, the laughter, about the questions they asked, and how none of the answers came easy. "I'm not here to ask for sympathy," she said. "I'm here because kids like me, we have voices. We don't need saving. We need space, respect, and sometimes someone to look us in the eye and say, 'You matter.'" Silence, then applause, slow, then rising. Some stood, some wiped tears, but Ava didn't hear much of it. She was too focused on the weight that had lifted from her chest, the kind that comes not from being seen, but from finally saying something. That needed to be said. Backstage, Maya hugged her. "You killed it." "No," Ava said, smiling through tears. "I shared it." Later that night, she sat on her bed, reading new letters from kids in other cities. Kids starting their own circles, teachers asking how they could listen better. A handwritten note came in last. "You did it your way. I'm proud of you. R." And in the quiet of her room, Ava finally let herself believe it. She hadn't just survived. She had become something